Welcome back to the Always Aggressive podcast. Cory, Tanner Lipset, and Tony Ersland with you again this week. Guys, it's been so long I almost forgot how to do this. So here's the thing. We took a few weeks off and around Thanksgiving and whatnot, but we also didn't really want to come back until we had something to share, some good news to share, and I think we're finally there. Coach, I know there's a lot that we can't have yet.
We're almost there.
But we're almost there. We do have stuff to talk about today, and as we sit here recording on December 18th, 2020, where do we stand? We're getting close to the beginning of the 2021 wrestling season.
Yeah, we have a little bit more clarity, not as much as we'd like. So I want to kind of preface that with people today. We cannot give you opponents and dates yet. I will say we're hoping, and it's you're always hoping, right? There's nothing for sure. But next week, middle of the week, is when we're hoping to have the Big Ten schedule. But what we do have is we have a pretty strong outline in a lot of areas that can at least help us plan. You know what I mean? And so I guess the first thing that I would say is right now the tentative start date for the Big Ten conference only scheduling will be the weekend of January 9th and 10th. Okay. It doesn't necessarily mean every team's going to start off on that weekend, because of different states and regulations. You could have some states or schools delayed to the next weekend or, January 15th weekend. But the plan is to start conference only on January 9th. We're going to have roughly a 7-week schedule, finish up around February 20th. We will be taking the week off prior to Big Ten, still off. That's been something we've historically done anyway. And then we're looking at March 6th and 7th with the Big Ten championships. For the longest time, we did feel like that we were probably going to be at a neutral site. Mm-hmm. That doesn't look like it's going to happen. Again, I always leave this open.
Yeah, we're not 100%.
Nobody writes anything in marker these days.
Right. It's all in pencil right now, right? So keep the erasers handy. But it looks like Penn State will still host the championships, and so that's going to be the 6th and 7th of March. And we're still looking at, our season ending in St. Louis with the national championships that third week in March as well. So at least we have the outline of what we're doing. The other thing I can pass on is the planning wise, at least at this point, as we sit, is we're looking at 9 events, not 9 dates, but 9 events spread out over the course of 6 dates. They're looking at having each team have a quad, 4 teams involved, a try with the 3 teams, and then 4 individual duels where each school would host 2 at home and 2 away. Okay, and so there's your 9 competitions. Another point that's been heavily discussed and has been approved is what we call these extra matches. We can't call them exhibition, and because we know in this day of red tape, language means a lot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And
you got to call it the right thing.
Words mean stuff.
Right. And we really thought flexibility during this time, of COVID and the pandemic, it was important that we still have ways to get our guys matches, even maybe beyond just the 10 matches in the duels. Okay. So, if a kid should miss it because of COVID or injury, there will be extra matches wrestled at each event. Where those kids can get their match count up. That kind of leads into qualification criteria as well, guys. And so what I will pass on is, in years past, it was 8 matches minimum that were required to be in a coach's ranking, which is part of our criteria. They have cut that down since and said that we're looking at 4 matches as your minimum. So that's kind of the key number where, again, we're thinking about if a kid misses part of a season for whatever reason and we need to get those 4 matches in, then he starts appearing in the coach's ranking and would be in a better position to qualify for the national championships. So that's why the extra matches kind of becomes important. I also think personally, and I know a lot of other coaches in the Big Ten felt the same way, it gives us flexibility to wrestle different kids. Mm-hmm. Historically in our sport, we have open tournaments and kids still have the ability to compete, even red shirts. And so, for these kids' hard work and effort, they still will have opportunities to get matches in during the season. And I think that's very important for more than just qualification, criteria, right? So that should be a nice opportunity to get more kids matches as well.
You're talking about their mental. I mean, you're kind of talking about their mental health there.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
you're talking
something
about
like that.
student athlete welfare, right? I mean,
Mhm.
student athlete welfare. We're a sport that I consider lucky where, if you're not the guy, right, there's only 10 people that get to wear the singlet on any given night. We've had ways of providing these kids matches, and they can develop through that. They get to see, kind of, how things are going for them and how their hard training is paying off. So I think that's huge. And whether you're talking about mental health or, like I said, student athlete welfare, that's where that kind of falls under it to me. And so I'm really happy that as Big Ten coaches, that was something we felt strongly about. And it looks like we'll be able to provide at each and every date of competition that we have.
And it's hard enough. It's hard enough to keep kids motivated consistently if they're not the guy in the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're going in there and you're training so hard every day, and you're not the starter. And you got to be working towards something. They're working towards something. And if you start taking away those things that they can work towards, it just makes it harder on them, makes it harder on the coaches, makes it harder on everybody.
For sure. And this year is tough enough in that way. So, working to find ways to, give these kids opportunities to compete, which they've done their whole life, I think is good. So I'm hoping that will, be the case, and that carries forward. The other thing I would mention too is when we're talking about qualification criteria, because we won't have the match count to have an RPI, which has been a big part of the data driven to select qualifiers. They're going to do away with that for this year in terms of qualifying criteria. And so they're going to go on historical data. Okay. So they're going to go the last 5 years, and they're going to look on the historical data from qualifiers from each conference and those things, and then award the qualifiers to each qualifying tournament in that way. Okay. And I think that's fair. It's something we'd done in the past.
Right.
I know we had been trying to move away from that to a more data-driven approach, which we all liked and we felt was good. But for this year only, certainly it seems kind of the best way to go. So at least coaches and kids know how many qualifiers are coming out of each weight class from each conference and those kinds of things. So
do we know, is there going to be any sort of consistency, or is it going to be like the current model where, you may get 7 bids at 25 and 9 at 33 and 6 at 41, or do you think it's going to be the same number across all 10 weights?
No, I don't expect it to be the same number across all 10 weights, at least as it went before. As I alluded to several years ago, we went through this, and where each, I think the last number I remember is the Big Ten maybe had 72. You know what I mean?
The Big Ten got 7 at every weight and 2 wild cards.
Right. So it could be, if you look at the new data and you say, listen, the Big Ten's been sending 81 every year for the last 5 years. Okay, maybe it's 81, and then you're more right than wrong in terms of, okay, they gave us 8 and then 1 wild card for the 9 weights. That could be interesting. But I don't expect it necessarily to work out that way. I think they're going to give us our number, and then we're going to have to live with it. What makes it interesting is in the last 5 years, or at least that I'm aware of, let's talk about a team like UNI. 5 years ago, they were in the MAC. Now they're in the Big 12.
Right.
So how does the committee look at, they were here, now they're here, and how does that affect? They'll have to adjust, right, for that data. So it's not foolproof, but
conference realignments confuse things.
Right.
Right. And so it's going to be very interesting to see what that looks like. But at least it provides some clarity on what you have to do to get to the national tournament. Now, I did mention RPI. The one thing I'll say about the RPI is they can still use that, but it won't be as a qualifying criteria. It could be as a seeding, or even if you're picking wild cards, right? If you look at 2 kids who are very similar, and maybe they each have 9 or 10 matches, they could then look at that sample size and use the RPI in that manner to kind of compare similar kids. But they're just not comfortable in how much data we're going to have, given what the match count could be, to use it as a criteria to qualify. So,
Cory, you want to have a little fun here?
Yeah, let's do it.
Tony, what does RPI stand for?
Rating Percentage Index, I believe.
Not bad. I'm proud of you. I didn't know if you'd pulled that one out.
Well, I try to educate myself a little bit. You know what I mean? So I'm great, and I've been dropped in my head a lot, but I'm trying to hang in there.
for people that don't know what the RPI is, like Tony said, it's the ratings percentage index, and it is a schedule and win percentage based metric. And so what it is, I believe it is 25% your personal winning percentage, 50% your opponent's win percentage, and 25% your opponent's win percentage. And so you're talking about a boatload of numbers and math, which, everybody knows I'm really good at, that gets put into a computer, and they spit out a number for everybody. So it, It doesn't, it has a lot more to do with who you wrestle as opposed to who you've beat. Like, that's a common misconception with people, and the fact that, you can have a great win over a great opponent, and it means almost nothing in the RPI.
And that's the same metric that's used across sports, right? You'll hear RPI thrown out in basketball, in volleyball, in various other sports. They're all that same formula. It's just applied, to different competition.
I will say, and this is one thing I don't know about wrestling that I'd be curious to know is, I know that in basketball, whether or not a contest is at home or away has an effect on the RPI. Like, a win on the road is much more valuable in the RPI than a win at home. And so I don't know if that is I don't know if that's accounted for in wrestling or not. It's an interesting question.
I don't believe it is. Yeah. I don't believe, home or away has an impact on the RPI for wrestling. At least not that I'm aware of, I guess.
Yeah. But it's, like I said, it's a heavy weighted piece of the pie when it comes to basketball, as far as how those things are calculated.
Yep. Well, and I know volleyball uses almost exclusively the RPI, if I'm not mistaken. You know what I mean? To select a lot of their teams, which they're, as in everything, there's good, and there's bad. There's pros and cons. For us, we use 3 prongs. The one that it's actually been given less weight over the years has been the coaches ranking, right? You still have to have the 8 matches minimum, but the coaches still would rank the top 33. You have the win percentage, which is given as a metric, and then the RPI as a metric. So we had really moved towards trying to be more data-driven, which I believe is the right way to do it. It's shown, I think, when you look at the qualifiers and who's, being an All-American, that approach has been paying off. It truly seems to get the best kids in the right slots, at least, the most deserving. Let's put it that way.
And it also, it took care of the situation where you would have really strong weights and really weak weights. And you're giving the right amount of qualifiers to, because, we've seen even recently in the Big Ten where we've had certain weights that have earned 10, 11, 12 spots. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, you just have some loaded weights, and then you'll have another weight that's just a little on the light side. It's just not as tough that year. It's top heavy, whatever excuse however you want to verbalize it. And you only get 5 bids at that weight. And so you don't end up in those situations where guys who did well all year and they deserve to be at the national tournament, they don't get excluded because their conference only got 7 bids.
Right.
For sure. Well, and I think it takes out the situation that we have in the Big Ten. If you look at match counts for some of our guys, they not our guys when I say Purdue, but like in the Big Ten, match counts are a little bit lower for some of those guys. Because let's use Kyle Snyder a few years ago, for example. He would be competing in freestyle overseas, at the same time he's competing collegiately, and so his match count might be down. He's a 1 seed, and that he's going to qualify for nationals. But if he doesn't qualify the weight, either having a win percentage or an RPI, then when he goes to nationals, you may have, had 7 spots, but he's going to take 1. He's going to steal a spot essentially. So, those kinds of things, there's always those issues that we're looking to remedy, because the goal truly is to get the best kids to the tournament. Mm-hmm. But like I said, each method has its pros and cons. I think, bringing the coaches ranking down a little bit was probably the right thing to do. But at the same time, right, who sees these kids more than the coaches? So It's an interesting paradox. But like I said, I know this year we're going to go back to the historical data, and we're gonna go with it.
Well, the other thing too, though, that you talk about the glory of sport, and everybody loves the Cinderella story. You got to leave that door open for the kid that may have not had a great season, but they can put together that one big run and have a great tournament, or whether it's their conference tournament or the national tournament. So you got to leave hope alive for everybody, because that's where we talked earlier about got to have something you're working towards.
Yep. That brings up too, when you're talking about, kind of those people who will surprise people. It brings up, now that we seed all 33, like they literally, because of the metrics, they rank them out 1 through 33. And I know some people feel like, hey, it's probably the right thing to do. I mean, in my opinion, I don't want to speak for other coaches. I guess I know other coaches have strong feelings on this, but some of the fun too was you go and after you seeded 12 or even 16 at one time, there was some really dangerous draws in there, because there's some really good kids, 17 to 33 in there, and you just didn't know where they were going. That one seed could pull whoever, after the 16 or 12. And so there was some fireworks in round 1, and that kind of made it, maybe more exciting, right? Like that was, as a traditionalist, I enjoyed, like, man, there's going to be some things going on here in round 1. And maybe not so much, so now, you'll always see some upsets, but it's an interesting thing, evolution of where we've gone with the tournament.
Absolutely. We're still
fascinated.
Go ahead, Cory.
I had a few follow-up questions, Tony, about the extra matches concept. I think that's a great idea. And these might be questions you can't answer at the moment. Will it be like an agreed upon number by the coaches going into an event? Like, okay, we've got 5 more guys, we want to get a slot, so we'll have our tender to the duel, and then 5 additional. Is it just something that you and your peers are going to talk about beforehand? Will there be a situation where, okay, we want, maybe both teams have really good depth at 125, or one team has 2 great 125 guys, and so Devin gets 2 matches that day? Like, how many? What sort of rules are in place on this?
So there's rules in order to make the match count, right? Like, that's why we can't call them exhibition. Exhibition would not be a countable match. It has to be an extra match. Okay. I will say this has kind of come from the concept, for anybody who follows, or maybe you're not aware. We may go to these events like South Beach duels or journeyman duels, and they'll have, you travel extra guys. And as I said, we've always liked to get these extra guys matches. So, one day could be the dual meets, and then the next day you put these in 4-man round robin groups, and they get 3 extra matches, right? And so it was kind of really born out of that process that we've had already throughout the seasons. And so we just thought, okay, we need to do this after each duel. No, there's not a set number, and it can be definitely agreed upon based on that team's needs. Okay. If I know that, hey, Indiana's going to travel with 16 guys to this duel with us, and Coach Escobedo may say, hey, we would like to get all 6 of these extra matches. Well, I'm the home team. I weigh my guys in. We'll get them. Yeah, we'll try to accommodate them. Sure. So there has to be flexibility, and also the other considerations here. As of right now, we still just have our 2 officials. We're not trying to, get those guys to officiate for a day and a half, right? So there has to be some consideration. We're not going to run a tournament after the duel. So I don't envision it being like another extra 20 matches, but I have no problem saying, there could easily be several matches following that duel. But then again, you got to think of, cost. We got to think about, what do we have to pay these officials to work extra on that day in our gym? So there's a few things out there that have to be ironed out, but no, I think your questions are good ones. I just look at it more as who are they traveling with and who needs matches. And then as coaches, we're going to try to accommodate people. I think that's the one thing, every Big Ten coach was like, yeah, it's the right thing to do. So if they have people available and we need extra matches, we're going to try to do the best we can. And it could be for backup guys who aren't, your number one, or it could be, that guy who's been out and simply he needs 2 matches on that last event of the year to get his match count up. So that's really cool. I think it's a great concept. Like you said, it's something that's been in play, but not really, as big of a deal. Now it's going to be sort of spotlighted, and good on you guys for figuring that out and making sure that gets implemented. That's fantastic.
Yeah. It's a really solid adaptation to, the circumstances and the times that we're dealing with.
Yeah.
Yep. As a caveat to that, because I alluded to it, I will mention that there is it's something we've put forth. It's not been approved, so I'm not telling you this is what it will be. But because of COVID, having flexibility, and we're a weight class sport, so I can't just sub another player into a different position. Like, hey, this game you got to play here. Like football,
you can't play right field.
Today you're a guard, or any left fielder. Let's move them over to center. That can't happen. So we did request, having one guy or 2 guys per weight travel and available on dates that we have multiple matches. So that means our travel party would be 20 people of athletes only. Okay. And that's a change where before it was 15. So, there's been some things put forth that we don't quite know yet, but we'll see, because I do think, again, flexibility is going to be required. And so we'll just have to see where we kind of land. Listen, clearly more considerations here than just, 20 for this year because of the pandemic. There's lots of things that have to be evaluated and worked through. But just so people understand, these are things that are being talked about and are real considerations for the season.
Yeah. Anything else on schedule, Cory, that is still hanging in your head that you're trying to figure out? Or
there's one thing we talked about we started talking about a little bit before we went on air, as it were, here. I know there's been some frustration, amongst fans a little bit that some schools released their full schedules, last week, and the majority of schools didn't. I know the Big Ten hasn't done that yet, and like we were talking, there's a lot of different considerations within conferences, testing protocol, travel, different standards within different conferences, COVID standards. And then another big one in the Big Ten is TV is a really big concern, or not concern, but a really big element of Big Ten wrestling. So getting virtually every, if not every competition on the Big Ten network for you guys is it's crucial. It's vital. It's with, fans probably not being allowed in most sports venues for the foreseeable future. Like, you want to be able to schedule these all at a time where as many of them can be showcased as possible. So that's just another variable that is a part of the mix here for Big Ten scheduling.
Yeah, no doubt. And listen, we really appreciate what BTN does for wrestling. They've been able to showcase it in a tremendous way. And our numbers, as we've talked about before, have continued to grow, right, in viewership and minutes watched and all of those things. So that's been tremendous. And I know they're trying to find the best way to do this as well. I mean, like, problematic things, we talk about these multi-dual events, quads and tries. I don't know that you can do that from a TV perspective. Now, clearly that's their decision, but I think that's going to be problematic. That's going to be a tougher thing to do versus maybe when we're each doing our 4 individual duels. I feel like that's probably where they're going to focus, their time and energy is on being able to present those individual duels in a tremendous way. Right. And they'll do that. Whereas I'm not really sure how you do or broadcast, maybe if you've got 2 mats in a gym all going at the same time, got a couple of ring circus. So it will be interesting to see where we land. I am hopeful in the next week we have everything there so we can really, Tanner can start doing his job, right? I mean, right. Tanner needs to look at travel and hotel rooms and stuff.
I'm enjoying the vacation, Tony. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, yeah, they can wait as long as they want. I'm good. So,
right.
getting all
No,
through.
I'm anxious to get out.
That's broadcast is that's my problem. Make that our
Right.
problem. You know, people
Right.
in my
You're
position.
right. Yep. No, what I envision happening too is I envision us getting the schedule on Christmas Eve and me calling Tanner saying, "Hey, go to work."
Right.
Hey, Tony, you got my wife's number, right? Call her. Call her instead. You can tell her.
No, I'm not calling her. I'm leaving Jess alone, man. I'm going to run from that call. She's in her own season, man. She's in her own season.
You ain't kidding. It's been interesting. She's got to make her first road trip this weekend, so it'll be a bachelor pad over at my house for the weekend.
There you go.
But no, it's the TV benefit. You know, like you said, Cory, you alluded to this. It has been frustrating to have to wait, but the reality is that the reward at the end of it, the fact that, you know, the benefit of, we get so many matches in our conference to be televised, and they're looking at how, you know, I don't know how COVID's going to affect it, but like, I know that the goal is to broadcast more, is to televise more, to figure out how they can get more wrestling on TV and make sure that all of them are at least, you know, in the worst possible scenario, they're at least streamed.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, that BTN Plus product just keeps getting better. And, you know, they keep offering more options for people. You know, they now, for the first year this year, you can subscribe to just your school's content, or you can subscribe to just a sport content. Like if you want just all the wrestling matches, you can subscribe to just all the wrestling matches now. That wasn't available before, you know, in addition to buying the entire suite where you just get everything, which is what I do. Because, you know, junkie.
You want it all.
We watch it all. So it sucks having to wait, but I really think the reward and the payoff for Big Ten wrestling fans is going to be worth the wait.
Totally agree. Speaking of rewards and awards, the fall semester wrapped up. Right, that's called a segue in the business. The fall semester wrapped up, and you guys had another outstanding year in the class. Well, half a year in the classroom. Just got to be awful proud of the work these guys are doing under really strange and really challenging circumstances. Yeah, no,
you know, you said it best. I mean, it was really challenging, a lot of adversity, especially. You have freshmen coming in and to not be, you know, in class all the time. And so you're trying to adjust in that level, right? Not only the level of training, but the level of school and homework, and just the energy and time it takes was tough on the young guys' transition. So just proud that, hey, they got another first out of the way. You know what I mean? They got their first semester done. And our cum GPA stayed over a 3-point, you know what I mean? So that was nice. And then we have a lot of guys who thrived. You not only got through it, but they thrived and did very well and are going to be honored by Purdue. We don't have, I know from, you know, us talking earlier, we don't have the Big Ten honor roll yet. That's going to be down the road. But just within our department, we had a lot of guys on the team that did a nice job. And so just proud of everybody, because it's a tough situation, and where maybe guys didn't do as well as they wanted, we'll find a way. We'll adjust and you know, find a way to kind of be better this next semester. So, but again, just proud of the effort they put forth and how they finished up. Now we're in a nice spot where, you know, we've got about a month just to think about wrestling before school starts here. You know, third week in January.
To speak specifically to some of those awards, we had 12 guys make the coaches honor roll, which is a semester GPA between a 3.0 and a 3.5. And we had 7 more guys who were on the AD's honor roll, which is 3.5 or better.
So 19.
Including a couple 4.0s in Parker Phileas and Max Lyon. Hats off to those guys.
For sure.
And both Christian DeVita and McCartney Parkinson, first semester of college, they managed to take care of business, make that AD's honor roll. So nice. Shout out to those guys and I mean all the guys that, you know, did such a good, you know, 19 guys out of a, you know, 31-man roster. That's a pretty good percentage of, you know, guys above a 3-point and guys taking home some hardware.
Yeah, like you said, kudos to those young men, and honestly, because they did awesome. But I will give a kudos to the entire team, even some of the guys who struggled. It's tough, you know what I mean? When you're 1 week you're virtual, and the next week you're trying to be in class, and deadlines come and go. When you're making that big step up, it can be tough. So I'm very proud of the team in general, and have no doubt that we will be even better for having gone through the experience next spring.
Yeah. Cory, you got anything else today? Anything else going on?
I don't think so. Merry Christmas to you both. We're a week away from Santa coming to town, and
we talking about Santa's right there, Cory.
You got a little trim up, and I love it.
It's coming. I mean, we're not quite there, but ho ho ho. And Merry Christmas to everybody. But hey, you two are probably getting lumps of coal in your socks, so don't get your hopes up.
Hey, I can light that on fire, heat the house.
Yeah, I mean, I spent most of my life on the naughty list, Tony. I don't think it's going to change anytime soon.
No, I got it, man. I'm right there with you.
I got to tell you, I'm ready for this damn elf to get out of my house, though.
Wait, no, I want to know this. I know this is going a little sideways. So we got an elf, Shelby. Okay, Shelby's in the house.
Yep.
Shelby was hanging from a fan by one of those, light up necklaces that you have, right? The Christmas light necklaces, swinging around on the fan this morning, giving the boys quite a show. So Shelby was a little rough this morning, but I don't know if it's the same way at your guys' house every morning. It's wake up and what's the elf doing?
Tell you what, yeah. It actually gets the kid out of bed, which is a miracle in itself.
We don't do the elf thing yet. We may have to incorporate that down the road. I don't know. That's I've heard of it. I didn't grow up with it, and we didn't.
Shelby's been watching movies, with a bowl of popcorn in the middle of the living room. Shelby's been into the hot cocoa. We're riding fans. I mean, it's getting crazy at our house.
Shelby sounds like Shelby knows how to party.
Shelby's having a good time in 2020.
Our elf's name is Max. He broke his leg early on, but recovered quick thanks to Santa. And Max went fishing the other day, caught some goldfish crackers.
Yeah.
I walk in the house and my daughter goes, "Dad, we're going to eat good tonight." Max caught 3. I'm like, okay. Okay, good job, Max. I'm a little concerned, though, because we woke up this morning and Max was having a poker game with Woody and Jesse and Bullseye from Toy Story. So there might be we might need an intervention at the Palm House.
Was Max winning is the question, though?
Well, they were gambling candy.
Okay.
Which was a problem with the kid because it was her Starburst they were using.
Problematic. Have you guys seen Tom Mitchell's Dino-Vember that he does with his kids?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Well versed in Dino-Vember.
Boiler bylaws, shout out to our guy over in compliance. The creativity he puts into that with Dino-Vember with his kids.
Yeah, I think that's like a year-round project, personally. 30 days in a row or whatever it is of that is exceptional.
He's got a game plan. He's got to do scouting reports,
Yep.
If you know Mitchell, this all sounds accurate.
That's on point. Guys, hopefully the schedule is out next week. We're going to take a bit of time off from the show, but obviously everybody stay tuned to the channels for all the latest, and we're probably gonna leave it there. We've talked about everything, including Elves today, so we're good. Merry Christmas, happy holidays to everyone, and we'll catch back up with you after the new year. Boiler up.